Hello, everyone, and welcome to SSUC, our spiritual gathering online in this first very cold Sunday in February. We greet you from the storied land of Cree and Métis people as we respectfully acknowledge that our history and our geography has made us partners in Treaty 6 territory, where we seek to heal the wounds of colonization and seek to ground our lives in a more equitable and life-giving future. Wherever you are as you connect with us, we invite you to take just a moment to acknowledge the sacred story of the land that you call home. We are exploring together in story and song and reflection a series on the geographies of the heart. We have visited thresholds, waters, mountains, deserts, and borders. And today we focus on the wisdom of forests, great teachers of patience, presence, resilience, endurance. We meet one another in the virtual space that we make sacred with our attention and our intentions. Pausing in the present with each other to nurture our spirits for the rigors of this time. A time of anxiety and restlessness. A time of grief and longing. A time of deep continuance in the long conversation between impatience and persistence. On behalf of Noah and Brett in the booth, and Deb at the piano, Jim and Janice, our leaders of song this morning, and Dawn standing in for all of you, and my teammate Chris, we welcome you to this spiritual gathering that we all shape and create together. We're so grateful for the gift of your presence, and that gift transforms this virtual space into real community as we ponder together, as we open to possibilities, as we seek what we need to sustain us in the great white waiting room of this pandemic winter. We hope you have a candle near you at home that you can light with us as we light our candles with one another just now. We're grateful to Teresa Wynn and to Sam McDougall for sharing their at-home candle with us. As we light our candles in our place, it's a way in which we can create a gentle and quiet space wherever we are, giving us a kind of common symbol on which to center, a tangible sign of our quest to find light in the midst of our discouragement and in the midst of possibility, in the midst of vulnerability and courage, to bring our sometimes flickering light and our sometimes blazing light to the long conversation of life itself. I invite you to take a moment just to feel the warmth of your candle, a moment to watch the wick as it engages the oxygen in the room. And in this settled, lit moment, we sing our prayer.
As trees reach out to the sunlight, as leaves unfurl in the spring, as roots roots dig deep into history. Our lives seek wisdom to sing. This is a glimpse of the journey. This is the hope of our song. To live more closely as we pray, connected in one our life long. A dream of people as kindred, a cause of justice and peace, a call to serve and help others, a voice of kindness increased. This is a glimpse of the journey. This is the hope of our song. To live more closely as we pray, connected and one our life long. A glimpse of holy in others, a sense of nature's roar, an opening spirit within us, a trust in facing each hour. This is a glimpse of our journey. This is the hope of our song. To live more closely as we pray, connected and one our life long.
As we gather together wherever we happen to be, we are emboldened by words that we can share together, songs we can sing together, because when we're apart, knowing that we're thinking and hoping that we're intending the same things for each other and for our world makes a big difference. So today, we will strengthen our intentions by speaking words together, and our voices will join wherever we are. On life's journey, each stride invites us to focus both on where we are and where to place our next step. As we journey through life's different landscapes, may we recognize the wisdom in each one and the echoes of each vista in our hearts. In both companionship and solitude, in dreams of hope and shadows of distress, may we have the grace to deepen our understandings of self and others. We seek the boldness and strength to live our highest values with every twist along this journey's path, in hopes that we might move the world toward peace, justice, and love.
We wonder sometimes what a difference just one person can make. What can we do? Will it matter? Will it make a difference? Here's a story to remind us about the difference just one person can make. A story of passion for the forest, a story of care for the earth. The true story of Jada Payne, the boy who grew a forest. In India, on a large river island among farms and families hard at work, there lived a boy who loved trees. Trees meant shade, food, and shelter for many. But each rainy season, floodwaters swallowed more and more of the beautiful tree-covered land. The boy's precious island was shrinking, eroding away with the rushing river, leaving empty sandbars behind. The boy witnessed animals stranded on those sandbars, their homes destroyed. He feared that if animals withered without trees, people would too. The boy shared his fears with the village. The elders explained that the only way to help animals was to create new homes for them. They gifted the boy with 20 bamboo saplings. Alone, he canoed down the muddy river. He wished he could cover all the land with trees, but a large sandbar nearby was the place to start. The land was too barren for animals, the shores too sandy for leafy trees. Would bamboo grow? The boy hoped. Determined, he began to plant. 1 shaft, 2, then 3. Every day he watered the saplings by hand, sweat trickling down his face and chest. He built a watering system to help and lugged heavy buckets from the river. He grew tired, his back sore. Still, each day he tended to the plants, and over time, the bamboo patch grew. It grew into a healthy thicket. The boy was proud of his work, but he worried it wouldn't be enough to stop the swelling river or to provide shelter for the animals. He wanted more plants to grow. He would have to create richer soil. So the boy carried cow dung, earthworms, termites, and angry red ants that bit him on the journey to their new home. He brought seeds from the neighboring villages over trails, through brush, down to the river. Each day, he planted. As years passed, the boy grew. So did a forest. 10 acres, 20 acres, then 40. Wildlife returned for the first time in many years. Buffalo, one-horned rhino, and snakes, gibbons, migratory birds, and elephants. The man's forest teemed with life and diversity. Not everyone was happy, though. Fear swept over the villages when tigers arrived. So the man planted more grasses to attract small animals that would keep the tigers happy in the forest. Elephants wandered into neighboring farms to feast on the crops. So the man planted more fruit trees to help feed the hungry elephants. Some wanted to harvest the forest to build homes, but the man was there to plant anew. Others tried to hunt animals for their horns and fur, but the man was there to protect. Few thought the forest would last, but the man believed in its strength. Now, in India, on a large river island, among wildlife and trees as tall as buildings, there lives a man who has planted a forest. The forest is called Malai, after a man, Jada Malai Pang, who never stopped planting and pruning and protecting.
refuse to surrender. Trust for the children tomorrow will bear. Let us be gentle with one another, lessening shame and guilt in our soul. Breathing in deeply, loving completely, that is what makes us able and whole. Let there be greening, birth from the burning, water that blesses and air that is sweet, health in earth's garden, hope in all children, regeneration, that peace will complete.
Forests are one of those places. You enter a forest, a stand of trees, and you're transported almost immediately into another world. Time seems to slow down. Things are quiet here, things are hushed. You enter a cathedral in which there are no ushers telling you to take off your hats or lower your voices. Forests inspire it naturally, it seems. Here in a forest near my house, the surrounding world melts away. The sound of the neighborhood is quieted. No cars, no phones. I know I'm not far from the street, but from my neighborhood, but I know that it's all kind of obscured, as if I'm part of a different reality than all that. This week I remember a particular memory from my childhood. I was probably about 8 or 9 or 10. Friends from the neighborhood would introduce us new kids to the forest behind the community center in our rural neighborhood. And I was one of those kids, and it was like entering a magic land that only a few knew about. Overgrown paths, rotting bridges, hiding spots galore. There were no adults there. There were no rules there, except for maybe the ones we made ourselves for the long days of playing. A multi-year effort to build and rebuild our fort made for a world unto itself. It was all ours. It was as if nobody else had ever known it. It was as if time slowed and we were in a place that let us be explorers. We would hike. We would be the sole inhabitants of this world, this country that was all our own. For me and my friends, that forest transported us in time and in space. It transformed the ordinary. It's my childhood memory of the forest.
These are the words of Jennifer Tarnacki in an excerpt from Brain Off-Grid. In Alsace, in the territory between Germany and France, there stands a huge stand of pear trees, majestic, like a green cathedral. They're estimated to be around 500 years old. 500 years of growth of branches arching into skies and inhaling light. Standing under one of them, time stopped. Grounded and seeking the light above, they are emblems of connection. Their branches, a metaphor for a rejoinder of earthly roots and an aching towards spirit, higher, somewhere up there. Peering from under its boughs, the heavens look endless, but really are only a thin membrane protecting us. The fragile atmosphere, swathing us like a baby sheathed in blankets, like holding a precious stone, a piece of glass, or an infant, cradling it in our hands, the earth paradoxically at once our cradle and grave. Those trees, lasting through 2 human-made world wars, seemed a leafy reminder of that which is eternal. Their roots stretched into 3 countries, oblivious to such lines. The blood, anger, passion, and rage of death, they fade into a lukewarm bath, seeping into the earthen womb as benign as dew. They quietly transform it all into new life. Lying under that pear tree forest, a voice began reckoning from deep within, resonating with the panoply of voices in the canopy above. The tricky raven, the songstress birds aloft in their nests, the bees and wildflowers, the nematodes crutching along their eerie subterranean path, the whole carousel of it all, a squawking cacophony of voices, a council of interspecies, voices, messages from deep and current time alike, whispering down my spine to wake up and listen. May we find wisdom we need for living this day, in the words of this writer, Jennifer Tarnacki.
Deep, deep and still, holy is the silence. Our cares are set aside for a time. Sacred is the hush that falls upon us, that calls upon us to listen. Listen to the voice sublime of truth deep and still. Holy is the silence around us and around us now.
Slow down, listen, wake up, transform. These are all kinds of words that entering a forest inspires. Forests are one of those places. When you enter, something happens. I'm not sure there's even words to describe it. But you know, in reading and in watching films, it seems that the genre of fantasy gets forests right most of the time. They use this excellent sense of metaphor for the forest. I think of just a few examples. I think of Lord of the Rings, where there's this majesty and magic when the Fellowship of Friends enters the forest of Lothlorien, where the elves make their home. There's suddenly this mystery and magic about that place. Other fantasy work, Harry Potter, the Forbidden Forest, might be forbidden, but whenever the characters enter there, there's something strange, incredible, magical that happens. Even to think of all of the fairy tales we can name, where the forest is home, usually, often, to witches, wizards, the ones who have knowledge of nature, the ones who have a certain wisdom and way of knowing, of love, of power, of inner understanding. And these people all choose to dwell in the forest. So there's this metaphor that persists in our world and in our culture, that the forest is one of those places that's hard to fathom, hard to put into words, but we know that something special is there. I noticed something in my preparation for this week's topic. I noticed something that happens for me when I enter the forest. I suppose it depends on the forest, but if it's even a little bit dense with trees, the sheer logistics of making your way through it requires you to slow down. It's hard to just push your way into the forest at breakneck walking speed. The trees aren't evenly aligned in rows. The branches don't part ways to know where you're going to walk. You have to wind your way around those trees. You have to step carefully on the uneven ground. You have to watch for the branches that you don't get whipped in the face. It's not a straight line, and so what a forest does for us is it forces us to slow down. I recorded one of my forays into one of my local forests this week. It's not long, but I want you to experience it with me. You'll hear the crunchy footsteps of fresh snow. But notice that one can't rush. It's methodical, and it's necessarily slow. I think of this slow world of the forest, and I think of patience. I can only imagine it as the patience of trees, patience to see all of life that comes and goes, patience to see our polluting human schemes and what we do to the air and to the forests, to see our destructive, warring minds at work, and the sheer will and longevity to see all of these human efforts through. As Jennifer Tarnacki has written under those pear trees in the European forest that saw those battles of the world wars, the blood, anger, passion, and rage of death, she says, they fade into a lukewarm bath, seeping into the earthen womb as benign as dew. They quietly transform it all into new life. The way she writes that reminds us that there is a patience and deliberateness to the life of the forest, that it sees a great deal and endures much. The forest has a certain power, an ability to provide for, to put a roof over our heads, to shelter, but also to frighten and to awaken us to stand up and listen as we step into its wisdom. It's hard not to pay attention when in the forest. Introducing you to Julia Watson in her TED Talk, who recounts the story of what we learn about the resilience and strength that a forest gives in the midst of challenge. Here's Julia Watson. Here is a group of people that have learned the slow wisdom of the forest. I'm not sure if you caught that on first listen, but this planting of these trees are planned so that they can develop a tree root bridge not now, but generations from now. The trees are planted so that a generation or two down the road can start these root systems, training them across the river and planting them on the other side. And even after 50 years, then, they're just starting to weave them and plant them on the other side. Julia Watson looks to this kind of ancient technology as a way for us to take the lessons of the perseverance of the forest and use it to our advantage rather than working against it. In her words, not all answers need to come from what we build out of concrete, steel, and glass. The forest has many secrets, and it's this generational, slow nature of the forest that really captures my imagination. When I shared that story of being introduced to the forest by my friends, it felt like a rite of passage. It felt like I was finally of the age that I could know that forest and its secrets. It's this kind of example that reminds us that although we live in this very instantaneous culture, that we want things now and we want them yesterday, there are things that we learn from generations. There are wonderful pieces of wisdom that we couldn't learn any other way, but by inheriting it, recognizing it, incorporating it into our lives. You might have heard of the term forest bathing. It's a Japanese mindfulness practice that has nothing to do with bathing in water. It has everything to do literally with bathing all our senses in the beauty and the nature of the woods. The original Japanese phrase for the practice, Shinrin-yoku, literally means taking in the forest atmosphere. It's a chance to smell the pine trees and touch the moss and taste the dewy air. The Forest Agency of Japan first introduced the concept of forest bathing in 1982 as a way to encourage people to spend more time in nature and to help decrease their stress levels. And it's now a popular relaxation technique in Japan where people enjoy guided walks, even receive medical checkups in the forest. Dr. Jing Li, president of the Japanese Society for Forest Medicine, has been the pioneer of forest bathing research. In one study, Li used the Profile of Moods test, a scientific questionnaire of 65 different feeling words, in which the person must answer how weakly or strongly they have experienced each feeling during the week. Subjects who had participated in forest bathing showed increased levels of vigor and reduced levels of anxiety, anger, and depression. I don't think we even need studies to tell us that time in the landscape of the forest, but really in any of these geographies that we've been talking about, is time well spent, is time for us, is time that is healing and healthy. As we look into the geography of our own hearts, I think the forest helps us. It tells us, first of all, just by its sheer density, it tells us to slow down. It tells us to wake up. It tells us to listen. And we too can find the gift of the slow in our creative efforts to connect, to have time to develop the parts of us that are evolving, especially in these long winter months where we're not only inside, but many of us feel stuck inside. Well, what do the trees and the forest tell us? They tell us that there are generational things to learn in this slow time. There are ways to develop parts of us that we wouldn't otherwise develop. We can nurture the patience of the forest. Not only to see this time through, this unique and strange time we live in, but to see all things through the way the forest has in so many ways. So as we enter the geography of our hearts, let's seek the mystery and the slow wonder in the wisdom of the forest, in our backyards, out our windows, wherever we can get it. May this be so for us in each of our own ways. A few invitations as we enter this new week. Invite you to a session of Going Deeper this morning at 11:15 Mountain Time, sharing your thoughts and your reactions to today's gathering in a circle way with each other. Again, this morning at 11:15 via Zoom. You can find that link at the website you see on your screen. As well, join the SSUC Saskatoon folks who are leading us in our Tuesday Topics Winter Series, who this week, on Tuesday, February the 9th, will lead us in a conversation about the successful endeavors of young Canadian entrepreneurs, developing businesses that see the world through a lens of social purpose. That's Tuesday at 6:30 Mountain, 7:30 Central, and please join in 10 minutes early to have a chat and a visit before the program begins. And as usual, we're so grateful for all that continue to contribute to the work of SSUC. If you'd like to donate to help with the work that we do both here and around this community, the city, our country, and our world, please find a way to donate by any of the means you see on your screen. And we thank you very much.
When an act of kindness enters where all joy has gone, in the dark of night, love is the light. When that act of kindness is the word of deed to bring, love is the light. You are a light in the world. When an act of justice enters where all hope has gone, in the dark of night, love is the light. When that act of justice is the word of deed to bring, love is the light. You are a light in the world. When an act of courage enters where all strength has gone, in the dark of night, love is the light. When that act of courage is the word or deed to bring, love is the light. You are a light in the world.
I invite you to take your candle with me as together we change the energy of our light from flame to smoke. As we do that, may it be a way in which we are turning our intentions, our thirst for kindness, our quest for justice, our hunger for courage in the world. May we turn it into light. Light we bring to our conversations with friends and family this week. Light we bring into the prayers we live and offer for our world. Into the places of need that we give what we can. May you be well. May you be safe. We look forward to our next time together.